I get chest palpitations and chest tightness, and just holding them in my arms immediately relaxes my heart.
Dog people, thanks for coming back to Rescued by a Dog, the podcast about dogs that have actually saved their owners' lives. I'm Laura, and as I've told you, this season of the podcast is entirely listener supported. There are 2 super easy ways to support the podcast for as little as $5. First, you could just Venmo me $5 or whatever amount you want to send, 10, 100, also good, at the handle LauraBama. That's Laura, B as in boy, A, M as in mother, A. Or you can go to patreon.com/Rescued by a Dog podcast. When you join the Rescued by a Dog community on Patreon, your $5 a month will help me to continue sharing these uplifting, beautiful stories. If you can't contribute, it's also super helpful if you can give the podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. Or you can like and share posts from the podcast Instagram page. Today, you're going to hear from Daisy, who was suffering extreme workplace abuse and discrimination at the same time that she experienced multiple major losses in her life. Only her dogs were able to keep her heart from breaking. Daisy!
Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Daisy.
Can you see me?
I can't see you. Hold on.
I don't know why.
Oh, now I can see you.
Oh, there I am.
Look how pretty
I'm in the car. So cute. You look beautiful, Laura.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. I am so excited to have you on this podcast because you and I were friends in 6th and 7th grades, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I believe you were on the math team with me. I still have a 7th grade 9th place math team trophy that I
have my trophy too. It's in my office.
I was wondering if you had yours.
Yeah, it was in the garage, but coincidentally, just last week I moved it to the office. And I'm thinking, am I having a midlife crisis that I'm looking through all my old trophies?
Yeah, probably.
But I'm so proud of that trophy. We had such a good time.
I know. I loved math team. I mean, I had like braces and headgear and I was on math team. So middle school was a disaster for me in many ways, except for you and my other nerdy friends made it so bearable. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. Likewise.
Yeah. So, okay. But we're here to talk about your dog and your journey. And I'm really excited to hear about that. So why don't you start out by telling me, what do they look like? How much do they weigh? All of that.
They're both a Maltese breed. Nico weighs approximately 10 pounds. He's all white with a little black spot on his nose. And Bella weighs only 5 pounds. She's tiny. The wind can blow her away.
And what was going on in your life when you got Nico and then Bella?
Oh, man. I was working excessive night shifts in Atlanta as an ER physician. The way they did my scheduling as a new doctor on board, I had just completed residency, is I was mainly working nights. And so I felt really alone because most people are out and about during the day, including my husband. So I'd come home in the morning, say a couple of words to him, have to fall asleep to get ready to go back to work. And I knew I needed some sort of companion in addition to my husband. Then I found Nico. He would stay up with me during the nighttime or the daytime. He was the first animal I've ever had. Like growing up, I never had any pets. My parents immigrated here from India, and where they lived, there were like rabid dogs on the streets. And so they considered dogs to be dirty animals. They didn't know better. And so I always wanted a dog ever since I was little. So Nico was like a dream come true for my childhood. Walking him was such a joy. And he would like go up to little kids and like just play with them and jump on them. He was the most friendly dog from the minute we got him. So we got Bella approximately a year later. I wanted to make sure Nico wasn't lonely and he had a companion at home. And so we picked up his little sister, Bella. The minute I held her, she was shaking. She lost control of her bowels.
Oh,
She was a poor little, like, fragile thing. And when we took her home, for the longest time, she would just hide underneath the bed. And eventually she came out of her shell too. Like now she likes to walk all over my new neighborhood. She greets all of the other dogs and all of my neighbors. It's amazing what just a little bit of love can do for humans and animals alike. I've been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is different than PTSD as people know it. PTSD usually revolves around one major traumatic event in your life, whereas complex PTSD means you underwent multiple traumas that compounded on each other. And it's really difficult to heal from it. And I can tell you I'm coming out on the other side, but for a while it was really dark, Laura. At first, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was honestly the rock of our family. She noticed a lump in her breast, and she never told any of us about it. I don't know if she was in denial or what, but it ended up being stage 4. It had already metastasized to her bone. I just remember when I got the news, I literally fell to my knees. I was broken. I was on the floor crying. My dogs, they would literally like lay on the floor with me. They would lick my tears away when I was crying. After my mom got diagnosed with cancer, I was so worried about how we were going to take care of my father. And I was working, and my mom called me while I was at work, bawling in tears, telling me that my dad dropped dead in the bathroom of a heart attack. She was skinny and bald from chemo, like just broken down. My father, her husband, was laying in our bathroom. And he was the other rock of our family because as a physician, not only was he the inspiration for me to go to medical school, but he was the sole financial provider for our family. So I had to leave my shift early, which I never do, hopped on a plane to New Orleans to make his funeral arrangements. And I never went back to Georgia. I stayed here to take care of my mother. My husband, my dogs, they all came with me. And fortunately, I was able to transfer to the VA hospital here in New Orleans. And then I became the sole provider for my family. My husband, he became the primary caretaker for my mother. I started to lose weight. I got down to like 85 pounds. I'm like 5'3", and so that's like I don't think 85 pounds is a good weight for any adult to be. But I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. All I was doing was working. Oh my God, my dogs were just a lifesaver for my family. Like how I told you my parents didn't want dogs. Nico and Bella won my mom's heart right away. They would like literally, if my mom was home, they wouldn't come to me or David, my husband. They would stay with her. They would lay in bed with her, and she likes to read and watch TV and knit. They would not leave her side. I would have to force them to go for walks. My new job in New Orleans turned out not to be so great. I started there in 2017, and I worked through multiple hurricanes where we lost power. I worked through COVID. My director at the time abused me horribly. I felt like he was really discriminatory towards women, and particularly minority women. You know, he has multiple complaints filed against him. And, you know, at first, I thought there was something wrong with me. And it really affected my self-esteem. I couldn't gain any weight at the time. I was nervous around him all the time. And it caused me to second guess myself at work. When, you know, in retrospect, I know I'm a good physician. I know I'm a strong, intelligent woman. You know, I haven't had any, you know, negative or adverse outcomes with my patients. I had a patient who I prescribed opiates to. He accused me of stealing opiates from the patient. And it turned out to into this huge investigation. Since I worked for the federal government, it was a federal investigation. And everybody at the hospital knew before I did that I was accused. I came into work blindly one day and I had the feds investigating me. They pulled me into a room, interviewed me. I was shaking, sweating, nervous. And I told them, I'm like, look, I didn't do it. You can drug test me. You can take a hair sample. There's video cameras all over the emergency department. And so when that happened, while they were performing the investigation, I went on family medical leave because I did not want to work at a hospital that was, you know, accusing me of something like that. And I did not want to be at work while I was being investigated. It made me extra, like, even more paranoid and more anxious. And I hired an attorney, and the hospital wanted to settle the case where I admit guilt. And I said, no way. They gave me multiple drug tests. I test negative. They took my blood. I test negative. They still wanted me to settle the case. I told my lawyers, I'm like, I'm not settling. I'm like, let's take them to court. They have nothing against me. There's no way they can win this case. And you know what happened? They dropped the case after I threatened to go to court.
They never even found out who took the drugs?
I don't even know if anybody actually took the drugs. Then, what made my PTSD worse is my husband went in for a routine colonoscopy at the age of 50. He wasn't having any symptoms, and they found stage 2 cancer. I got a new director when I went back to work. He really helped me through all of my trauma. He listened to me about my old boss. I told him I was in therapy. He was super supportive. However, the staff abuse since my previous boss created that type of environment for me, the staff continued to abuse me. So I decided to leave. I was still only 85 pounds. I was grinding my teeth because I was so angry and stressed out. My teeth were breaking off. My anxiety got so bad that I couldn't even drive to work alone because the whole place I felt was like so scary and traumatizing. So my husband and my dogs would take me to work every day, and they would pick me up from work every day. And just seeing their faces just brightens up my whole day. Like, sometimes they would even come and bring me lunch. And just, you know, they would literally jump out of the car to say hi to me. And every time I come home, they run up to me. They'll run out the door and just start jumping at my feet and start licking me and kissing me. And just, they won't leave my side. it makes me feel safe and loved. Like I can pick, since they're so little, I can pick them up and hold them close to my chest because I get chest palpitations and chest tightness. And it's not cardiac. I've had all those tests run for my chest pain. It's purely anxiety. And just holding them in my arms immediately relaxes my heart. They know, and they let me hold them for as long as I want to. I live in one of the safest neighborhoods in New Orleans, Laura, and I used to get such bad, like irrational anxiety about even walking down the street. And, with therapy, I started being able to progressively walk more and more. And now when I take my dogs for a walk, I still get anxiety. But if I do, I just pick them up and hold them for a little bit and then put them back down and we're good to go again. They're just like heaven sent. I honestly believe that. Me and my husband consciously decided not to have children, and I don't regret that decision one bit, but my dogs are literally my children. I would take a bullet for those dogs. I think my dogs are more important to me than any human I know. Like,
Does your husband know that?
Yeah, he knows that. He left me alone with my trauma for 2 months because he had to go care for his elderly parents in New York. And I was really dysfunctional. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't showering for long periods of time. I was drinking alcohol to numb myself. And all I had were my dogs. They were the only, people, quote unquote, that were there for me in my time of need. And I don't know how I would have gotten through that period of time without them. Having somebody to care for made me feel like I had some worth, a reason to get up in the morning. If I'm feeling anxious or something, they automatically come to me. Nico likes to sit on my head if I'm laying in bed or on the sofa, and I like it. I feel like they offer me protection. I've been going through a lot of therapy. I'm lucky that my husband's cancer is gone. He's in remission. I feel just so grateful to have the life I have now.
Where do you think you'd be right now if you had not had Nico and Bella through all of this?
To be honest with you, I think I'd be dead. Because when I was going through all of this, I was having suicidal ideations, like really thoughts of self-harm. I mean, I was harming myself with my alcohol, use and not eating, and not sleeping and just not taking care of myself. If they weren't with me, especially when my husband was gone for a long period of time, I think I'd be dead. They are the reason I wake up in the morning and I go to bed at night, because I'm their mommy and I know they need me. I sent all of my documentation of the abuse into the workers' comp people because I documented every email, every complaint, any incident of abuse, and workers' comp approved my case. So they recognized my PTSD as legitimate. They recognized my workplace abuse as legitimate. And so right now I'm on workers' compensation. I think eventually I would like to go back to work, but more in maybe a part-time capacity. I don't know if I'm ready to go back to the hospital type environment, but there's so many opportunities in telemedicine, telehealth. You can talk to patients just like how I'm talking to you right now. Bella is a sneaky little thing. we have a fence in the back, but she's so tiny, she can squeeze through that fence. And so a lot of times I'm looking for her and she squeezes through the fence, and then I'll find her waiting at the front door for me. For a while, Nico would fake a limp on his front paw because he felt like he wasn't getting enough attention. Dogs are really smart. And then when you start paying attention to him, the limp would go away right away.
If Nico and Bella could understand human English, what would you like to say to them?
Oh my God, that I love them more than life itself. I have so much admiration and respect for them. They're just like my little angels, literally sent down from heaven just for me, Laura.